Master yourself, or be ruled by everything. The man who masters himself needs no throne, no crown, no applause. He doesn't chase the world bends to him. But the man who hasn't is ruled by time, by noise, by cravings, by fear, by his childhood, by the weather, by what someone said online 3 years ago. He is a puppet, with 1,000 invisible strings. Look around. We live in an empire of distractions, built on a foundation of reaction. Every beep, buzz, and opinion is a command, and most obey without question. Not because they are weak, but because they never chose to become strong. Mastery is not about dominance. It's not about barking orders or building walls. It is the silent power of saying no when everything in you screams yes. It is the ability to stand still when the world shakes. It is knowing exactly who you are when everything around you tries to tell you who you should be. Edison didn't invent the light bulb by following a crowd. He locked himself in a lab and went to war with failure 10,000 times. Ford didn't build an empire by asking permission. He saw what didn't exist and built it. Hill, Carnegie, Roosevelt, Disney, they mastered the chaos within, so they could shape the chaos without. And now the question stares back at you. Will you master yourself, or be ruled by everything? Let's begin. The battlefield is in the mind. Before a man lifts a finger, before a single action is taken, victory or defeat is already determined in thought. You are not ruled by your boss, your family, or your circumstances. You are ruled by the patterns you've allowed to govern your thinking. Every belief is a seed, and the mind, your mind, is always fertile. What you plant, grows. Doubt, grows. Fear, grows. But so does courage, so does conviction. The soil does not discriminate. It simply gives back whatever is sown with repetition and emotion. You were not born with fear. You were taught to flinch. You were not born confused. You were taught to doubt yourself. You were not born mediocre. You were simply trained to forget your power. A mind that is not trained is a mind enslaved. It reacts. It repeats. It obeys every external stimulus as if it were divine command. But a trained mind? It decides what to think. It chooses what to feel. It commands its own storms. Clarity is power. In a world where everyone is looking for answers, you must become the one who understands the question. What do you want? Not what they want for you. Not what society sells you. Not what your fear tells you to settle for. But what do you actually want? The man who cannot answer that will spend his entire life running errands for other people's dreams. Look closely. Most people's lives are not lived. They are inherited, passed down like old clothes and secondhand beliefs. Do this, be that, think like this. They wear masks for decades, and then wonder why they feel hollow. But you were not born to play someone else's song. You were born to compose your own, to shape the raw material of your life into something unmistakably yours. That starts with clarity, not just ambition, but direction. Because motion without meaning is the enemy of progress. So stop. Strip away the noise. Ask yourself, without fear, without filters, what is the life I refuse to die without creating? When you answer that question, you'll feel something ancient awaken in you. Not adrenaline, but alignment. Not hype, but hunger. And now, with clarity in your hands, the next step is belief. Because even a clear vision is useless if the man holding it believes he is unworthy. Belief is the furnace. It is what turns someday into inevitable. Without belief, you can touch greatness and still let it slip through your fingers. So how do you believe? You act as if it were already true. You rehearse the future until your nervous system no longer doubts it. You build a new identity with discipline, with rituals, with action. You repeat it until your bones memorize it. The Wright brothers believed in flight when the world mocked them. Everyone thought they were fools, until the sky proved them right. Lincoln believed in a unified country when half the country wanted him dead. Walt Disney was told he lacked imagination, told he had no business sense, told he was done. And still, he believed. Not in fantasy, but in the inevitability of a dream forged in fire. And that is your task now. To believe with such intensity that reality has no choice but to rearrange itself around your will. Let them call it madness. Let them doubt. Your belief is not a performance. It is a quiet storm. And it will not stop until the dream has flesh. But belief without discipline is a mirage. Which brings us to the razor edge, the habit no one can fake. Self-command. Discipline is the bridge between desire and embodiment. It is the contract you sign with your future self, written not in ink, but in action. The world glorifies motivation, but motivation is wind. Discipline is the sail you raise when the wind is gone. The man who masters discipline doesn't need perfect circumstances. He creates momentum in the silence, pushes forward in the dark, moves when no one is watching. And here's the secret no one wants to tell you. You will not always feel like it. You will not always want to rise at 5 a.m. You will not always want to write, or run, or build, or grind. But that's the test. Discipline isn't about feeling good. It's about deciding that what you want in the long run is more important than what you want right now. Every day, you're casting votes for the man you're becoming. Each choice is a brick, laid or neglected, and years from now, you will live in the house you built, or the one you allowed to crumble. The truth is, the world is run by disciplined men. Not by the loud, not by the lucky, but by the few who learn to do what must be done, whether they felt like it or not. Napoleon Hill didn't write Think and Grow Rich in bursts of inspiration. He wrote it in long, disciplined solitude, with the same fire every single day. It was not talent, but tenacity. Not genius, but grit. So you want to master yourself? Start here. Keep the promises you make to yourself, even the smallest ones. Wake up when you said you would. Finish the task you said you'd start. Resist the impulse to scroll, to delay, to justify. Because every time you keep your word to yourself, you become stronger than the world's distractions. But discipline alone is directionless without vision. And vision is not a dream. It's a command. Vision is seeing the invisible, and then doing the impossible. It's the clarity of a man who looks 10 years into the future and decides, that's who I am, then turns around and does something about it today. A weak man looks at his circumstances and says, I'll believe it when I see it. But a visionary, he says, I'll see it when I believe it. Steve Jobs didn't wait for permission. He saw a world where technology fit in your pocket, and then bled for it. Martin Luther King saw a nation healed before it was even close. They were not prophets. They were builders, and their blueprint was vision. Do you have one? Not just a vague idea, but a detailed, ruthless, emotional picture of where you are going. A man without vision will be used by those who have it. And here's the truth about vision. It demands sacrifice. You can't have the life you want and keep the habits you hate. You can't rise while dragging old anchors. You can't walk into your future still dressed in your past. So let it go. The excuses, the small thinking, the bitterness, the addiction to comfort. Let it go. Because when vision takes hold of you, you'll find yourself changing your diet, your friends, your schedule, not out of pressure, but because anything that doesn't align with the vision begins to feel toxic. And from that vision comes something even deeper. Purpose. Purpose is not something you find. It's something you choose. It's not discovered. It's declared. Purpose is what turns pain into power. It's what makes you stand up after failure. Not because it feels good, but because you must. A man without purpose wakes up and drifts. A man with purpose wakes up and drives. It doesn't have to be grand. It just has to be real. To build, to heal, to teach, to create, to raise strong children, to bring light into dark places. Purpose gives you a reason to suffer well. It's what makes discipline worth it. It's what keeps you pushing when the crowd is silent and the scoreboard says you're losing. Carnegie had purpose. He built steel empires not for greed, but because he believed in progress, in civilization, in what man could become. Purpose burns deeper than motivation. It does not shout. It whispers, keep going. And you must choose a reason strong enough to carry you through the winters of life. Because they will come. The cold seasons, the barren months, the mornings where nothing makes sense. But when your life is driven by a purpose larger than comfort, you become unbreakable. You don't need the world to agree. You don't need applause. You don't need a perfect plan. You just need to begin. And once you begin, once you move in the direction of your vision, with belief, discipline, and purpose in your chest, that's when the world starts to respond. That's when doors begin to open. Not because of luck, but because of alignment. The world doesn't give you what you want. It gives you what you are. And the man you become is built in the moments where no one is watching. The world will test you, not to break you, but to reveal you. Every setback, every betrayal, every storm is not here to stop you. It's here to sharpen you. Adaptability is the mind of the master. Because life will never go according to script. You will lose things. You will outgrow people. You will make plans that collapse in your hands. And in those moments, the rigid man shatters. But the adaptable man evolves. You must become like water. You must learn to bend, not break, to shift your path, without losing your direction. The mountain does not ask the river to move straight. It simply asks the river to keep moving. Success is not about controlling every variable. It's about adjusting when those variables change. Winners don't win because life is easy. They win because they adjust faster than others quit. Think of Thomas Edison again. 10,000 failures. Not 10, not 100, 10,000. But he did not see failure as final. He saw it as data, as feedback, as part of the blueprint for success. That's adaptability, not passive acceptance, but creative adjustment. It's looking at a closed door and building a window. And if adaptability is the mind of the master, then resilience is his soul. Because there will be days when nothing makes sense. When your strength feels like dust. When your best effort is met with silence. And your heart whispers, maybe I'm not enough. But that's the precise moment. When most men are separated from the few. The majority retreat. The few rise again. Resilience is not about pretending. It's not about toxic positivity. It's about returning, coming back stronger, again and again, not because it's easy, but because you refuse to be conquered. Abraham Lincoln lost more elections than he won, was broken by grief, crushed by depression, and still, he led a nation through its darkest hour. Not because he never fell, but because he never stopped standing back up. You must become that man. The one who takes the punch, and still moves forward. The one who is underestimated, and builds in silence. The one who faces loss, and finds wisdom in the ruins. Because mastery isn't forged in comfort. It is born in the fire. In the discipline of getting up. When the world gives you every reason to stay down. And now, we arrive at the deepest level of all. Emotional mastery. Because you cannot master your life until you master your state. You can have the best plan, the strongest will, but if your emotions rule you, you are still a prisoner. Let that sink in. A single moment of anger can destroy a decade of peace. A single decision made from fear can sabotage a year of progress. A life run by impulse is a life lived on a leash. You were not meant to react. You were meant to respond. To feel fully, but not be controlled. To experience emotion, but not obey it blindly. The strongest man is not the loudest. He is the one who can feel rage, and still choose patience. Who can feel fear, and still take the step. Who can feel sadness, and still rise with grace. Emotional mastery is not about suppression. It's about regulation. It's about noticing your storms, and learning how to walk through them, without letting them drown you. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire, and still wrote quietly about peace, patience, presence, because he knew, the man who does not rule himself, will never rule anything worth having. So pause, reflect. What triggers own you? What patterns hijack you? What do you allow to enter your mind? And make decisions in your name? You must learn to observe, without judgment, to say, this is fear, this is insecurity, this is ego, and then, to breathe, to choose a different path. Because here's the truth, you don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your standards. And emotional mastery is the foundation of those standards. When you've mastered your mind, when you've disciplined your body, when your heart beats in rhythm with a greater purpose, that's when something changes. You stop chasing life, and start leading it. You stop begging for peace, and start building it. You stop being a reflection of your environment, and start becoming its architect. And from that space, from that grounded, powerful, internal stillness, there is one more key to true mastery. A force most overlook, a practice most dismiss, and yet, it is the hidden engine behind every fulfilled life. Gratitude. Gratitude is not weakness. It is not denial. It is not pretending everything is perfect. Gratitude is clarity. It is power. It is the ability to hold pain in one hand and purpose in the other. And still smile, because you remember who you are. Gratitude is what keeps the master from turning cold. It's what keeps ambition from becoming greed, and discipline from becoming bitterness. It grounds you. It brings your eyes back to what matters, to what you already have. You see, most people live in a future they never reach. Always chasing, always comparing, always unsatisfied. They wake up with breath in their lungs, and curse the weather. They hold the miracle of today, and bury it under complaints about yesterday. But the man who masters himself understands that gratitude is fuel, not a reward, but a strategy. When you are grateful, you train your mind to see opportunity, to notice what's working, to build from a foundation of abundance, not scarcity. It's easy to say, I'll be grateful when. But true power is saying, I am grateful now, even as I build, even as I strive, even as I hurt, because that is the paradox of mastery. You do not need to hate where you are to desire more. You can hold hunger and humility in the same breath. You can build from joy, not just desperation. Think of the greats. Those who changed history didn't just conquer obstacles. They carried a deep reverence for life. They loved the game, even when it broke them. Nelson Mandela, imprisoned for 27 years, still emerged with forgiveness, still spoke of unity, still found grace. That's not weakness. That's unshakable strength. That's gratitude born in fire. And you must find it, too. In the smallest things. In the morning light through your window. In the ache in your muscles after a hard day. In the sound of your own breath. Proof that you're still in the fight. Because the man who masters gratitude can no longer be controlled by what's missing. He is no longer owned by what he lacks. He becomes a force that no economy, no opinion, no storm can shatter. Now listen carefully. Everything you seek, the peace, the power, the wealth, the legacy, it does not begin in the world. It begins in you. Master yourself, or be ruled by everything. This is not poetry. This is a law. If you don't lead your mind, it will follow the loudest voice. If you don't discipline your time, it will be stolen by lesser things. If you don't define your identity, it will be shaped by your past. And if you don't fight for your freedom, you will be ruled by your fears. Dressed up as comfort, so stand up, not someday. Now, look in the mirror and make a vow. I will no longer be ruled by emotions that do not serve me. I will no longer answer to habits that bury my power. I will no longer apologize for the fire that burns in me. The world doesn't need more followers. It needs men and women who walk through life like it's a sacred mission, who speak truth when it's not popular, who build things that last longer than their name. You don't need another book. You don't need another video. You don't need anyone's permission. You need a decision to master your thoughts, your emotions, your habits, your hours, to master your response to pain, to master your discipline in silence, to master your integrity when no one is watching. Because once you do, once you become that person, you will not need to chase success. It will find you, because you will be aligned with it. And everything that once ruled you, the fear, the noise, the self-doubt, the old stories, will bow before the man who finally stands. So the question is not, can you do it? You already know the answer to that. The question is, will you do it today? Because the truth is, the clock is ticking, and either you master yourself, or you will spend your one and only life being ruled by everything else. The choice is yours, and it always has been. Now choose.